It's no secret that Google really wants to convert iPhone users to the Pixel series with their aggressive trade-in values, aggressive ad campaigns, and a huge focus on the user experience with the Pixel 8. But the question I keep coming back to is why? Realistically, why should iPhone users switch over to the Pixel experience, and what has Google been doing over the years to make the Pixel line more approachable? Well, to answer this question, we need to take a quick look into why iOS users are so loyal to Apple products, and I think it comes down to three categories, which are reliability, simplicity, and integration. So let me explain. If you ask an iPhone user why they like their iPhone so much, you might get several different answers, but I guarantee you reliability will eventually come up in conversation. To iPhone users, reliability means a fast, stable device after 3 to 5 years, long update windows, high-end hardware, great customer service, and having features released when they're ready. Looking at this list, I think we can all agree this is the making of a reliable, long-lasting smartphone. If devices stay fast and still get updates at the 4 to 5 year mark, you can easily pass down the device to a family member. If devices ship with high-end hardware, you know it will physically last a long time. Great customer service will make customers less likely to switch to a competing brand, and having features released when ready is just a good look for the company. It makes them look competent, trustworthy, and shows that the leadership cares. Now, take a look at the new Pixel 8 series and you can see the same exact framework starting to form. Google is now promising 7 years of OS and feature drop updates with the Pixel 8 line, which is 2 years longer than Apple's typical 5-year update timeline. In regards to hardware, I'd say the same changes are starting to happen. Google is on their 3rd generation of their semi-custom Tensor chip, which boasts improved speeds to AI processes and less overheating issues than we had in the past. But the big news will be coming in 2025, where Google should announce a completely custom Tensor chip in the same way that Apple does with their A series. Switching over to customer service, Google is admittedly still working on this. They do have in-house chat and phone support. They do partner with iFixit for repairs and the sale of repair parts, but the iPhone favorite feature of walking into a physical store isn't really an option unless you live in New York City or Mountain View, California, with a Boston location supposedly opening up in 2024. So this is what Google's committing to now in terms of reliability as a whole, but there's more information to know on how much more consistent Android will be getting in the future. Recently, the vice president of Android engineering appeared on the Android show. I'll put a link in the description, but his name is David Burke, and he makes some interesting comments on why quality is important in the current version of Android while alluding to the goals of 2024.
Quality is just, it must be, I sometimes call it the number one feature, right? Like if you think about how much we depend on our devices and how much we use them a day, it's just really important that the device runs really, really well, really, really reliably, the highest performance, highest fidelity. One of the things that we did internally is we made a pledge to ourselves that we would ensure that every release was higher quality than the previous release by a set of expanding metrics that we measure in the lab and in the field. It's really causing us to force the bar higher and higher. And even internally, we're looking at actually changing some of our developer practices in 2024, where rather than sort of go off for a year and work on a release for a very long time, can we break that up into chunks internally so that we sort of keep the branch green as we go internally.
For the sake of this video, I had to cut the interview short, but I highly recommend you give it a watch when you have some time. From what I'm receiving from that interview though, Google seems to have identified specific metrics that will make Android and in extension Pixel a higher quality release year after year. I wish they would release those metrics publicly so that we can judge for ourselves, but if I had to guess, it's probably AI features, Android efficiency, large screen / foldable quality of life changes, and building out tools that make it easier for developers to develop Android applications. Moving on, let's talk about another major aspect keeping iOS users loyal to Apple, and that's the simplicity of their OS and ecosystem in a number of ways. In my opinion, iOS users really like how the home screen and design language is the same across all devices. They really like how iPhones don't have any pre-installed apps or carrier bloatware, and they really like the simplicity in hardware choices. All of which Google is mirroring to a degree. For starters, Google's Pixel UI has looked exactly the same for years. Just compare it to my 5-year-old Pixel 3 and you can clearly see everything from the home screen to the recents menu to the settings page hasn't changed at all and probably won't for a very long time. Not to mention, all of the Pixel devices have almost an identical design language with Material You color theming, to Google's apps all being uniform in layout, to even the camera system being dead simple, designed for any average user to get some high quality photos. The same could be said for the other points we made about simplicity, like the lack of carrier bloatware. Thankfully, if you buy a Pixel device from AT&T, T-Mobile, or Verizon, you will get the same experience as someone that bought a Pixel directly from the Google store by being the first to get updates and no pre-installed apps, of course, besides the Google ones. Finally, as I mentioned earlier about the simplicity and hardware choices, Google offers almost identical options to Apple. They have a budget model with the A series that competes with the iPhone SE. They have a baseline model with the normal Pixel 8 that aligns with the baseline iPhone 15, and Google has a model for tech nerds with the 8 Pro series that should line up with Apple's iPhone 15 Pro. So in this regard, Google is providing familiar, solid alternatives to iPhone customers that might be used to this structure. Finally, the last major reason I think iOS users are so loyal to Apple is due to the dreaded ecosystem conversation. I'm sure you've heard about it a lot over the years, and I mean, it's true. Apple has been slowly adding experiences over the year now that encourage the purchase of more Apple devices. For example, messages transfer between iPhone, iPad, and Mac. AirDrop can send files between all iOS devices. You can hand off web pages from one iOS device to another. AirPods connect seamlessly across all Apple devices, and the list goes on. Admittedly, this is still an area Google is in the beginning stages of. Over the years, they've introduced a lot of these continuity-focused features to the point where they have all the basics covered for the most part. For example, sharing messages between phone, tablet, and laptop can now be done through Google Messages. Nearby Share is literally the Android version of AirDrop that can send files between Android devices. Web pages can be handed off to other devices through the use of Google Chrome, and my Pixel Buds Pro can connect to any of my Pixel devices in the same seamless manner that we see it done for iOS. Like I said, this is still the weakest aspect of the ecosystem conversation. Apple has been working on this for many years now, so replacements for Sidecar, continuity camera, automatic hotspot sharing, and universal clipboard is still quite a ways away, if coming out at all. So at this point in time, Google is really close to building their own system that brings important features over that iOS users really rely on. The foundation is there, Google has the resources, and most importantly, I think Google is realizing now this is how you build a loyal user base. Not by being first or throwing everything at the wall to see what sticks, but by simply being reliable. In that regard, I'd say this is an ongoing effort that Google's been building towards over the years that keeps getting better as time goes on. At the same time, Google still has a lot of work to do in that area, and I just really hope they succeed. Apple has way too much market share, Google does have a good product going for them, and I would just love to see more diversity in the market. Either way, guys, leave a comment on what you think of the Pixel ecosystem today and its relation to iOS users. Should iOS users realistically switch? Is Google doing the right thing to keep existing users happy while drawing in new ones? Leave a comment and let me know, but in the meantime, guys, I'm getting out of here. This has been Jordan Floyd with 9to5 Google. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.